What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to take a look at the Planet X Nemeios, their version of a masterpiece IDW styled Victory Leo. Now, there wasn't really a Victory Leo in IDW. There was a Star Saber, but not this guy. But Planet X decided to create this guy in their imagination, and I think it's really cool. But there isn't really any reference material for an IDW styled version. So I'm perfectly happy with it being more like the Victory G1 style. But first thing you want to do is come to the back here, take off this back plate, which is just tabbed in here. This guy is a parts former, of course, just like all other Victory Leos, because he has to come apart to combine with Star Saber. But the first thing you want to do is put the wings in. So looking at it from this direction with the holes facing you, you want to take these wings, you want the red part on top, and you want to make sure you have this hook tab on the back or facing you. And then you're going to push this in kind of firmly. It does kind of stay in there, and it should rotate around there. And that's how you get the wings in. And you'll need this for all three modes. And you actually will be taking this plate off as part of the transformation, but they do sit in there and they stay in there. All right, so once you do that, you're going to just put this back on right here. And that just tabs into his backpack pretty securely, actually. And now he's got his signature wings, which of course that makes him the character we all know and love. For his articulation, the head is actually a little bit limited just due to the way it's sculpted. So the rear lion mane actually sits down in that cavity, so you can't move it up and down. But rotating it is a little bit limited just due to the shape of his head. So you can get it over to there, down to there, and up to there. You get a little bit of side to side as well. If you unpeg the chest a little bit and pull out the neck, you can get a little bit more out of it. You can pull this up, and now you can get way down, way up. You can rotate all the way around, but you're kind of untransforming it. So I just wanted to show you without untransforming it, it is a little bit limited. Wings can go back and forth and rotate on this joint. You can open these up. It's really meant for the combined mode, but you can open these up and have that style if you want. I prefer it like this for him, though. Coming down to the shoulder, you have a butterfly joint here. It gets all the way up to there. It will bump this chest if you go too far, but nice joint there. It goes up to there. All these joints are friction, by the way. Rotation at the shoulder all the way around. You have a rotation at the bicep. Double joint to elbow gets you the full bend. You have a rotation at the wrist. Individually articulated fingers. And the thumb is on a ball joint. He does have a slot in his hand for the weapon, which I'll show you in a little bit. For the waist, you have a rotation. Now this waist will pop up. In my unboxing, it was a little bit unpopped. If you keep doing it, it'll pop all the way off. So, and again, this guy's a parts former. So just make sure it's pushed all the way down and it'll look nice. Continuing down, you have hip skirts that move out of the way on all three sides. The leg goes up to there on friction. These legs are kind of light compared to the Kadmos figure, but they are nice and firm. The joints out to there. Nice tolerances on these joints. Rotation at the thigh. You have a single joint knee gets you 90 degrees. Ankle tilt all the way up to there. Up back to there. Forward on the toe. I mean, you can move the whole thing too on this joint here. So forward to there, back to there. And then the toe and heel itself can move individually. So plenty of articulation on those feet. For his accessories, you kind of need these. I mean, it almost doesn't seem like a Victory Leo without these. Now, this comes with these pieces here, which actually make up the sword. But for storage purposes, they have it here. So if you prefer this more G1-y or Victory style look, you can have it like this. Or you can store this on here, just for the purpose of storing it. And look like that. That's how they have it in the pictures, but it's up to you. You can do it however you want. I'm just going to do it the way it's shown. And then that's going to plug in right here. So you got to give it a little bit of a push. And then it folds out like this. So he can have that over the shoulder style look. And that's really nice. You can also have it just straight back like that. So if you want that look, you can have that. Really nicely done. So you can just put both on there. You also get these weapons. A little bit of red paint there. These Gatling guns. So again, he did have these in the original Victory. They might not look exactly like this, but these can basically plug in right here on his hip skirt. There's a little slot. And do the articulation on that joint. You can have them down like this, up like this. You can actually lift up the hip skirt, and then that kind of straightens it out. And of course you get two of those, so you can have it on both sides. But I really like the look of that. That's just signature look for him. Really nicely done. You also get the V-Star or V-Lock cannon, I'm sorry. Looks like this. A little bit of red paint here and here. Gold handle here, and that's the one that's meant for his hand. There's a slot right here on the back that will fit onto this peg on his arm. So I find it easiest to get it into that slot first. It's a tight fit, and then attach it to his hand and close the fingers. And there you go. Now he's got the V-Lock cannon. Really good looking. And there it is next to the Planet X Kadmos Star Saber, which we are going to be combining together a little bit later. But what a cool pair. Star Saber is just a hair taller, but the top of the mouth here comes basically about to the top of the ears. So they're essentially the same height, but the top of his shoulders are a little bit lower. But that's the way I prefer. I prefer them to look about the same height. Now, because Victor Leo is so wide, he tends to look bigger, but he's not actually bigger. And just a quick comparison for a sense of scale, there it is next to Transform Element Optimus Prime. He's a pretty big guy here. He's big enough to fit in with your Masterpiece Collection. Now, these guys were really big in the show, but for purposes of Planet X scale that they've been using, they're going to be a little bit smaller than what you'd expect a Victory Saber or Star Saber to be and a Victory Leo to be. But I think they fit in nicely with the Masterpiece Collection. All right, now let's get him transformed into his Lion mode. And you can actually leave these on here if you want. We'll take these off just because they're going to kind of get in the way. So we'll start off with the arms. So go ahead and come down to the bottom here. Lift this panel open. Rotate your hand so that the flat side is on the back. Rotate the hand in. Close this up. And then bring the paw to the front. And that one's done. So same thing on this side. Come to the back here. If you lift down on this, we can bring out his mane and then just straighten up these kind of side pieces here. And that's sort of the head. You can kind of see how this is going to look already. But come to the back here. There's probably the most work to do here on the back. But go ahead and come to this panel. Open this up. Open this up. Now, I have a panel that's actually installed upside down. So this tab is supposed to be down here. It hasn't seemed to affect anything other than I've got to get this to clear by it because it's got to clear by that tab. So anyway, just wanted to let you know that that is a potential issue you might have. Open up these hip skirts here on the bottom. And then we're going to take the leg and unpeg it from the front so it can collapse down and come all the way down here. And like I mentioned, this little tab gets in the way just due to the way my copy is set up. So this should come basically all the way forward like this. This is going to tab back in. Put this down. This is going to tab back in here. Now again, I have that weird panel, but tab that in, bring this down, then bring that over the top. These you're going to rotate around. Then we're going to shift this, rotate this leg 90 degrees around this here. On the other side, and this is going to sit on top of here. There's this tab slot right here. You're going to get that tab into there. So get that lined up and tabbed in, and then put this foot down, and that's how it should look. Alright, so we'll do the same thing on the other side. And kind of our finishing step, we're going to take the two legs, they're going to peg together, so just squeeze those together. You can fold these down to cover down. And one thing I forgot to mention is these feet will probably be like this. Just push them back so they're underneath the ankles there. And there you have Nemeios in his lion mode. It looks really, really good. The head sculpt here, pretty well done. You do have additional articulation here on the jaw, so you can open that up. Actually looks good open. They didn't put a cover or anything on the face, but you don't really see it because it's under the lion head. But minor pet peeve there is I wish they had a little cover panel, but not a big deal. The arms still move the same way, so it's the same articulation. I'm not going to talk about that. These legs have different articulations, so they can pull in and out on this joint, which will allow you a in and out movement. You can rotate around on that joint. I believe you can actually, yeah, you can go downward as well. You have a bend here at this knee. These joints are really tight, so I tend not to move them, but you can move them if you want. And then the paw can go in and out, and it can angle because it's on a ball joint. So you can get these legs outwards for like a crouching or jumping stance or whatever you want. The wings can move just like they could before, and then the guns here can move up and down. Of course, you can mount the weapons here. So these you can put in a couple places. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but there's peg holes kind of everywhere. So you can really put them here or here. There's a little spot in the wings, so if you prefer this look on the front, you could do that, which I think actually looks the coolest. But whatever you want, I mean, there's plenty of spots to pick out. You can also use this cannon here if you want. You can plug it in right here on the top. Let's see, I think you have to use this peg back here. Yeah, there we go. And that can fit in there, and now he can be fully armed up with all the weapons. That's really, really, really cool. And for a quick size comparison, there it is next to MP10. Obviously not from this continuity, but you can see this is pretty big lion mode. Looks good. So there you go. All right, now let's get him transformed into his space jet mode. And relatively simple, but there's a couple interesting steps here. So go ahead, we're going to take the rear, rotate this around 180 degrees. Make sure this isn't separating, you just push it back in. So it's flush there. Take these feet, these are going to fold all the way back around and then tab back into that tab right there. So just get that down and tabbed in. And then this peg is going to go into here, so put that back where it came from. So I show like that. So like that. Same with this one. For the front legs, we're going to collapse this down like that. And we're going to come to here, and this is going to basically tab in to the side of the abs here with this tab, and then the feet are going to tab into this tab. So get that plugged in, get this one plugged in, and basically that one's good to go. Right, same on this one. Right, now we'll take care of this head. So to do this easiest, I recommend just taking out this backpack. You don't have to remove the wings or the guns, but just take off the backpack, set that aside, because you need a little room to see what I'm talking about. So there's a little gap here. What you need to do is open up this front panel. This head's going to work its way all the way down. You can push these ears in and this mane down. But this is going to come all the way through and meet up here. So rotate this until gets down there, and you have to make sure this clears. You can close the mouth. Make sure that clears so you're not scraping up the paint. And it's got to come through here. So you have to kind of line it up so that the mouth and the horns make its way all the way through. It should be poking out like that. Now we can make sure this mane is collapsed down over here. And then you can take this chest. There's 2 tabs right here. It's going to peg into this. So if you don't have it all the way down, you'll have a hard time pegging that chest back in. Right? It'll actually collide with the mane. So that's how you know if you have it, it should fit. The mane should fit underneath this chest. Okay. All right, now we can put the wings back on. Rotate these cannons to the other side. And like I mentioned, you don't have to take them off. Come to the front here. Now we're going to make the front of the jet. So open up these toes. We're going to rotate them 180 degrees on the heel and the toe. Collapse this down. This is going to rotate 180 degrees. And then this is going to accordion down and end up sitting right in here. So you actually see this black piece fits perfectly in there. So it should look like that. Right. So same on this one. Come to the bottom here. We're going to get the landing gear out. So landing gear are collapsed right here. You can actually reach into here and push, and that'll give you a little head start and allow you to fold the landing gear down. Or you can use a spudger, but that's the easiest way. And then there's 2 more right here. They're kind of hidden. And I like to use a spudger just to get a start on it because it's a little hard to get to. But right here on the chest, kind of a hidden spot there. And there we have Nemeios in his jet mode. It does look really nice. It rolls actually pretty nicely on these wheels. You can fold up these landing gear if you don't want them. I don't know if I'd recommend doing that because then it's sitting on these plastic pieces. And I feel like those might scratch. So I recommend keeping the landing gear down so that you can set it down. But it's your choice. I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, pretty good looking jet mode. I don't have this collapsed all the way, but overall, I do like the look of it. You have some flexibility with it. You can take the V-Star or V-Lock cannon. That will plug in right here. In the instructions, they showed it this way. And I think that looks silly, but it's an option. Or you can do it the forward direction, which I think makes more sense. This, and then you can angle this however you like. But there you go. Pretty nice looking jet mode. And there's Kadmos and Nemeios together in their jet modes. A really nice looking pair here. And they are similarly sized. The Nemeios is a little bit taller, but overall pretty similar. Now, it's not just for fun. We're actually going to combine them together. So come to the back here on both. We have to flip around these wings. Now, you can do it this way if you want. You could have it like this. But I think in the instructions they show you to flip around. So we're just going to do that. So we're going to lift up the chest panel. We're going to rotate these wings 180 degrees. So the wings are the other direction. Then we can rotate these guns. And again, these are all options. You can have them forward or backward or whatever you want. But I'm just going to do it the way the instructions say. Rotate these guns so they're facing the front. And then reattach the backpack. Right now, go ahead and come to here and open up these panels. And that's kind of what's going to attach it to the back of this. And you need a little bit of prep here. And this isn't in the instructions, but you want to rotate these so that they're out of the way. Because that's going to make it easier to actually put these pegs in. You'll notice I have the landing gear out on Kadmos already. So get this lined up. You're going to insert this on both sides so you can see how it's going in there. Make sure it goes all the way in. And then you're going to close these panels on the inside so they latch into the other figure. And hard to show you what I'm trying to show you, but they're basically latching in to the back of Kadmos right there. So give those a firm push. But there you go. There is the combine mode. It's a little weak on the connection, but overall it works. You can take the V-Star cannon and attach that as well. And now you got that look pretty wild and crazy. And there they are back in their robot modes, ready to combine into the Victory Saber mode. It's actually easiest to go to Victory Saber mode from here, but for the purpose of the video, I saved it for last because it's the most exciting thing. So if you were doing this yourself at home, you would go to combine mode from robot mode. That's the best way and easiest way. All right, so a couple prep steps on the Kadmos figure. We're going to unpeg this from here, and we're actually going to unpeg this from the backpack. And this actually has to come off for now, so you can just set this aside. There is a way to use it in the combine mode, but for now we're just going to set it aside. We also want to take off these pieces here, and I know that probably is, I mean, this whole thing is parts forming, but there's a lot of parts forming on it. So take off these jet pieces here. The engines, so you can just set those aside for now. And I've had a little problem here on this hip skirt ever since I did the upgrade. The hip skirts are tending to fall off, and I think it's because the tabs have gotten damaged. So I'm going to request new ones from Planet X because that was part of the upgrade process. And the instructions weren't really that great for that part. But all right, so he's basically ready. One last thing, you got to take these panels off his arms. And it's really interesting because they had all of the hardware and pieces ready, so they knew what the design was going to be to combine him with this Victor Leo, which is really impressive to me. All right, now we can get this guy into his combine. We'll just set this guy aside. And he's basically going to come apart into a bunch of pieces. So first you can come to the back here. We're going to remove the backpack as a whole. And this is actually going to go straight onto Victory or Kadmos, but just set that aside for now. Come to the back, take off this rear hip skirt piece, and that's basically what's holding these legs on. And then you can pull this off of here. This is attached onto that peg. Now you got the two legs. And I recommend doing the legs first. In the instructions, they don't show it that way. So we'll just set this aside because the legs are kind of a little bit more challenging than the rest. So starting with the legs, just leave that down. We're going to take this, unpeg this from here. Wow, okay. Rotate that around and then collapse that down so it looks like this. Rotate the toe and rotate the heel and leave it in that configuration like this. We're going to open up this panel here, and mine is screwy because I got this one wrong direction panel. We're going to take this back here. This is going to rotate up, and then you're going to fold out this little peg so that this can, when this comes up, it's going to peg into the leg. This panel is going to come down, and it's going to sit inside here and on top of there. So get this down. We got to lift this up and all the way in. Make sure it makes it on the top and not on the bottom of here, so it's sitting flat on here. Actually, so look something like this, and you can put these down this way. And now it's ready to receive. There's a peg right here. That's going to go to the bottom of Kadmos' foot. So you can see there's a slot right here on the foot. That's going to fit in. So get the toe in first, all the way forward. Then peg it onto that peg on the back. And honestly, that peg on the back doesn't really peg in all that well. But this does. So rotate this up. Make sure you have the peg on this. Rotate it up. And like I mentioned, that back foot peg doesn't like to stay for whatever reason. I've had a hard time with that. But this is going to rotate up and peg into the back of the leg. And that really is what secures it. So there's one leg kind of done. You can actually take this panel right here, fold that down. And in the instructions they say leave this straight up. I like to fold this so it sits flat or sits on an angle, but you can do whatever you like. I just think it looks a little bit better if you fold this down. Right. So same thing on this other side. So there's both legs installed. One thing I forgot to mention is these pegs back here are going to peg into the sides of the legs. All right, next we'll take care of the backpack. So go ahead and grab your backpack, come to here, and there's two slots here going to fit onto these two tabs here and here. And then these pegs are going to go into the side. So get these tabs on first. And it is a tight fit, so make sure you line it up. And then go ahead and take these tabs and rotate them so that they fit into the side of that backpack. That really secures those on there. Actually, you can take off these sword pieces right here and just set those aside for now. Come back to the front here, and here's where you've got some options. So if you prefer this in the look of like a more G1 looking Star Saber, then you can kind of stop here, right? And this really looks a little bit more, right? Because he's got the boots, he's got the backpack, but he doesn't have anything else. He doesn't have the arm pieces, he doesn't have the chest. But since this is a IDW Star Saber, I'm going to continue on with the transformation. I just wanted to show you have the option of displaying it like this if you prefer. So let's continue on. We're going to take this guy, open this up, and we're actually going to take this head piece here. This is going to rotate and pop out of here. So take the head out. I'm going to fold this panel open, and then the head's going to sit down like this. And this piece can store, if you don't want it on the front, you can store on the back, right here. So you bring this over and peg it into the top here. And it could just sit back here on his backpack. Now that's an option if you want to have it on the front as the chest, which is what we're going to do. Then you got to come to here, open this up. I'm going to pull out the saber from the chest, set that aside. I'll show you can do something with that, but it's kind of an option. And then one thing I forgot to do is take this main. So you're going to rotate 180 degrees, and that's going to sit just like that. These pegs are going to peg into the bottom of this. So take this, peg it into the top of the chest. Make sure this panel is, flush with the front of the chest. Something like that. Go ahead and bring this down, and that's going to peg into the lion mane. And this is actually kind of hard to get pegged in. It doesn't perfectly line up, so you have to kind of wiggle the head a little bit until you get that plugged in. But there's that lion head on the chest. That's really cool. Right, let me lock this backpack into place. Okay. Next, we're going to take care of the arms. So here are the arm pieces from Nemeios. Come to the bottom. You're going to open up this panel here. We're going to take the arm, rotate it, and we're going to collapse it down. Open up the side here. We're going to rotate the hand, fold that in, fold this down, and then just leave the paw sitting, and that's going to rotate in and make this kind of thing. And then you can take this and close this down, and that's going to peg back in on the side here. All right, so it looks like that. And you rotate the hand, or the paw, so it's like this. These two things are going to peg into the side of the arm, And that's why we removed this panel, right? To allow this to attach where that was. So that it's really cool they had thought about all this, but it goes there. And it pegs in really securely on the side of the arm. I did notice it scratches the paint here, but it doesn't really matter because you got these panels to cover it up if you decide to go back into the Star Saber mode, or yeah. So go ahead and do the same thing on this side. We'll do that off camera. Be right back. All right, so there he is with the arm pieces. A couple more pieces here. So we have the hip skirt here from Nemeios. That's going to peg right here onto the front of this hip skirt, just like that. Go ahead and take the sword from Kadmos, and you take these panels, and these are going to peg together. These are the pieces that were on top of the guns from Nemeios. And then push that down, and there's your new sword. That's pretty cool. Nice big sword. And that's just going to fit into his hand. You can't actually store it if you want to. So one last piece here. If you take this peg is going to fit onto the side of the arm. Let me just make sure I have the right one. No, other side. So I'll just peg in just like that. And now you have that slot there, so you can attach things like you could for the original Kadmos figure. For example, you can take this sword, and that can attach like that. You can also take this guy right here and do the traditional look, like so. Right, and there he is with the sword and the shield kind of mounted. Now, the new weapon here is the V-Lock cannon, and you actually have to use the black tab. This tab won't fit in Kadmos' hand, so unfortunately you can't use the gold tab to have it kind of like this. So you can't really get that position. So this ends up being just like a handgun for him. There it is, fully armed up with everything, all the weapons. The only extra parts I have here are these two pieces here, which I mentioned earlier. If you want, you can part, but really those end up being extra parts. And then of course you have the Saber figure, which I'll probably just display in robot mode. But there is an option here I wanted to mention. If you open this up and tab it back into there, the Saber can fit right here. And you know, I don't really know what the reference is or what this is trying to show. So, and I'm actually not quite sure how to do it, but it does kind of fit in here. And I don't think I ever saw that in the show or in any reference material, that Saber attached to the V-Lock cannon. And before I forget, there's a close-up of the new head, blue eyes. It really looks nice, much better than the old head, but there you go. As far as articulation is concerned, it is basically the same as the Kadmos figure, but I'm going to go over it just because there's a couple things that are different. So the head, still on that ball joint, and it's up to there, down to there, rotates side to side. It's a really nice looking head, by the way. Shoulders rotated around on this ratchet joint. It is strong enough to hold up the gun if you want to put the gun in his hand. So there you go. He can double wield it too. You can actually get him holding both of these if you want. Elbow gives you the 90 degrees. Rotation at the wrist. Shoulders can go up on this joint here, so you can get the shoulders way up to there, even with all this stuff on the side. Rotation at the wrist. Hands are just the same as they were on Kadmos, so no need to cover that. The waist rotation and ab crunch are still there, so you can still get all of that. It still works. The hip skirts now are here on the front, so you kind of have to move both hip skirts out of the way because the legs are underneath there. And then you get the double jointed knee here. And there's a little more stuff to deal with, but it works just fine. For the feet, you can rotate this front foot, so you kind of has a separate foot from this. That's a really smart way to do it because you can get the articulation out of that without a problem. So that's really nice. So final recommendations on the Planet X Nemeios, and I guess we'll include Kadmos since they're combined here. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. This figure is absolutely phenomenal. It does so much in all the modes. So I really like the robot mode. It looks really good. All the weapons and accessories integrate in all the modes. The lion mode looks good. And typically the jet mode is the one that suffers the most. But this one actually looks good. It looks like a jet. Combined together with the Kadmos figure, the combined Jets V-Star is not that great. It's a little weird looking, but it's okay. It still looks what I would expect it to look like for a IDW combined mode, which didn't exist. The combined mode here is absolutely impressive, and I love the fact that you can adjust it. You can take the chest off, you can take the hip skirts off, you can take these arm pieces off, and you can have it look like a more traditional G1-esque style Victory Saber. So all those options are really cool. I love that. All the weapons are just impressive. I mean, there's just so much going on with this figure. You can really do a lot with it. And the posability is pretty darn good considering how much stuff is on this guy. So my only negatives and great issue is these hip skirts as I was doing the upgrade. Now you'll see in my upgrade video how to do the upgrade, but I did end up kind of messing up these. They will peg on there, it's just that they fall off easily. I'll just show you, so you can just pop it back on there. But they do pop off easily now, so I'm going to try to request new ones from Planet X. But that's about my only complaint, is that process to install the new hip joints and the knee joints is a little bit challenging. But that's really it. Really recommend this if you're interested and you're a fan of the Victory Saber character, or just IDW in general, or even Planet X. Highly recommend this figure. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.